So in next 45 minutes or hour, we will spend time on this this very important concept, the continuous improvement. And particularly, I'll focus on what is the continuous improvement for the product management. So if we let's before we I dive into the session, please feedback the background information about me so you guys have the context. So I'm a senior product manager at ServiceNow. I joined ServiceNow about 2.5 years ago. I work on a portfolio of applications. They all fall under this continuous improvement management. How you can have the data-driven insights from your product, how you can have the customer feedback, how you can have the benchmarks, and how you can find the or implement opportunities across the product lines. So ServiceNow is a cloud platform. If some of you don't know what we do, and we build these cloud applications for our enterprise customers. So we have application for IT service management, we have application for HR, security, and our whole mission at ServiceNow is to make the work easier for people because as you know, some of you are working in the big enterprise. Sometimes it gets so tedious to get the work done. There's so many silos and then so many different systems. So we solve that problem and makes the work better for you. So before joining ServiceNow, I worked for a long time, about 5 years at HP. I worked in different product lines on the hardware side, on the software side. I worked with a startup. So if you see, I have experience, working on an early stage startup, a big company like HP, and now a mid-sized company, ServiceNow, about 7,000 people that we have. On the this side, you'll see the Agile Fitness. That's my labor of love. It's my own non-profit project. So it's we can say, quote unquote, a startup to increase the knowledge about health and fitness. I'm a certified trainer, and I'm also a certified nutrition coach. And the reason I'm bringing those up because as we work in the enterprises and we get so busy, our life gets so busy, and we forget about our health and fitness. So my goal is to, I love product management, but at the same time, I don't want to lose the sight of how to take care of myself. Because if I cannot take care of myself, how can I take care of others? How can I have this, this elusive goal of changing the world? So, so I'll keep it short. I did my MBA from Santa Clara, a school very close to her from here. So great school. It was a part-time and learned a lot. So some of the templates and the canvases that are useful for the product manager, I have a section up there that I learned during my MBA program. So I hope you'll find those useful. A brief agenda for today. What is continuous improvement? How to apply into the product management, and then some of these new technologies. So we have the mature cloud platforms now, and now these new technologies like AI, blockchain, and few other applications, AR and VR. How they are impacting or redefining the product management role, and we are kind of right in the mid of it because all these technologies are converging. And the role of a product manager is getting more and more important because there are so many things you have to think about before creating a product or a solution. And we'll have some time for kind of the summary slide on this key takeaways, and you can hopefully have Q&A. So before I dive into this continual improvements term and the framework and the concept, I want to start with why companies hire product managers. I think it's important to understand some of you who wants to be a product manager, and there are many kind of answers to that, and I'll kind of give some example here. But in my mind, if I simply look at why company need product manager, is for these three reasons. Because You want to have a customer champion in your company who can understand what are the customer problems and how to solve them, right? The second is the company wants to reduce the uncertainty around the product and solutions they are building. And the most important part is they want to have someone accountable who can help drive the sustainable business growth. Because as a company, everybody wants to grow their, the profit, their revenue, their market share, and then this is where product manager roles becomes very critical, who can come up with the new product ideas, can understand the customer problems, and can build a solution that customers are willing and ready to pay, and that's how the company makes money. There are many more points, but in most of my slide, I kept three to four just to keep it, the simple and I think that are applicable. But if you see from the product lifecycle standpoint, what a product manager do is so this is the product lifecycle. There is a discovery phase, there is a planning phase, and there is an execution phase. There are sub steps between these. But a product manager is responsible for, in some way, and one note here is it varies from company to company, because some companies are more engineering focused or engineering driven. Some companies are more product driven or product management or driven, and some companies are like somewhere in the middle. So there is nothing kind of the right and wrong approach. It's very contextual, depending on what product your company has, what solution you are building, what market you are playing. So that's why you see there's so many varieties, and that's why there's some confusion around what is the difference between a project manager and a product manager, or how about program manager. And in some companies, program managers are playing the role of a product manager. But the way to have your mental model, or like how you can see is, someone who is responsible or who understands the customer, who can come up with the business requirements, and then work with multiple stakeholders, multiple cross-functional teams, sales, marketing, the release management, and the customer support, and build up this solution that a company can sell and make money. Okay, so this picture is from a survey results. So we surveyed around 100 product managers, and we asked, hey, what do you guys do on day-to-day basis? And you see there's like so many things. Hey, we do prioritizations, we do the roadmap, we manage the team, we understand the customer requirements. So there's kind of a text cloud here. The bigger the word here, which means that was the most common response. But the point I'm trying to make it here is, as a product manager, the responsibilities could be endless. So you have to slowly learn sooner or later how to prioritize your own time, how to learning to say no to things which is not important for your own product, for the company, and which always keep yourself in the customer's shoes. Okay. This is another, I found it on the internet. It's like, hey, what product managers do, this is what my friends think I do, this is what my mom thinks I do, this is what actually I think I do. But why is that? So if you ask this question, I'm going back to my previous statement, because every company has a different solutions, different requirement, different culture. When they are building up the product management team, if you look at a kind of a startup, early stage startup, usually they hire product manager once they have there's some success in, or they have the first customer. So those are all variables that makes this kind of this funny slide here. All right, so this is the main theme of this session today, continuous improvement. Some of you may have heard continuous improvement, the same term being used in other areas. So the common ones are, I listed few of them here, the continuous delivery. in the software development these days, all the software companies and SaaS companies, they want to release as fast as possible. Right? You work in this agile mode, you build some incremental features, deliver them on an ongoing basis, the monthly, weekly. Some companies are doing an hourly release, so you need to have this kind of the development and operation working in a loop with a lot of automation and then a lot of monitoring, so that you can make that happen. This last picture here is this is from the service management. This is the place where my company build products, IT service management, customer service management, and there's a very popular framework. This is the ITIL, and then within the ITIL there is an important process, CSI, continual service improvement. Because in the IT world, you care a lot about that as an IT, the services that I'm delivering, are they serving the purpose? What is the uptime, and then what is the process in delivering those services? So what's important here is a lot of companies start implementing these different services and process, but they forget to implement that how you continuously improve them. Because there's always room for improvement, right? It's not just about this particular example, the IT example. You can pick it, look into your companies, look into your personal life, look into your health goals. There's always room for improvement, right? So that's the idea. And now the question that was in my mind, and then I built a product that I'll show an example soon, is that why can't it be applied to product management? Product management role is that you're responsible for so many things. How do you keep track of your own progress, where you are, where you want to go? How do you want to keep track of everything in between? Have the goals and KPIs so that you can show the outcome, productivity, the value achieved, whatever the KPI you care about. But there are three building blocks. So this is a very well-known golden triangle. To make any improvement happen, these things has to come together. Because it's just not about, hey, I have a tool, I use PowerPoint or some project management tool where I'll track the things. No, there are human, actual people involved, right? So this is why there's like a people, and when it comes to the people, there is in an organization you have the hierarchies. You need the leadership buy-in for some of the where the investment is required. You need their approvals, and then the process. So some of you don't know what a process is. So the easiest way to think about it is anything that you are doing in your job, how you are doing that job in a step by step. So that is a process. Okay. And then you may know, okay, how can I optimize this process? Maybe I'm doing this 10 things manually today, and I want to make 5, or these 2 is really necessary. So having that kind of mindset and go into those, finding out the improvement opportunities and inefficiencies across the whatever work you do, that's very important. But from the structure standpoint, there are many framework out there. The people who follow the Six Sigma or the Corbett, and a lot of it is started from the manufacturing era, right? Famous, the Toyota stories and how Toyota implemented this, the lean manufacturing, and then the fastest delivery features. But the easiest way to think of it is that there is an identify stage where you're identifying what you need to be improved. Once you have those that list, you want to plan, you want to prioritize based on what matters most to you at that given time. What matters to you, what matters to your product line, what matters to your the company goals, and then how you will execute it. And then once it is executed, you want to have a kind of a continuous monitoring process to see, is the things working the way I expected? If not, how can I course correct myself in the sense that whatever the task and the work we are doing. And to do this efficiently, you have to bring in the people who are responsible for that particular activity, the related data, very important, because these days most of the product starts generating data. Because it's not just the software product, but all the hardware products also generate data that you can look at the user behavior, you can look at how frequently they are used, in what fashion and format they are used, so you can make better decisions. And it is think of it as a structured process. And you may be wondering why we are using this word process so many times, because if you look at the way the human mind works, is we have our own mental models. Whatever we do, the way we see the world, the way we look at the things, so it's driven from the way our mind process those things. And so once we have our mental model, and if this is kind of another or one model that you can use in many different scenarios to improve any situation, whether it's a product, whether it's a service, whether it's the personal improvements or my team's improvement. It applies to in so many different areas. This is the example of the product that my team built recently. So it's a continual improvement management framework, and our whole goal is how we can make it really simple. So in here you can easily see what's the current status, what's in progress, some of the project management pieces, and here you can see some of the things like how you can make this continuous improvement happen at all level in your organizations. It's not just about a particular team or a particular set of people. You're fostering this continuous culture mindset in the company. It takes time, but once you do it, that's what you see why some companies are more successful than the others. This is basically the collection of things that come together, and the culture and the mindset that makes a company either go up or down in the different areas. Now, the way I think of it is that so there's kind of two trains of thoughts. One is, hey, is doing small increment better or doing radical innovation better? These days you see that, hey, these new technologies, artificial intelligence, or the machine learning, or they are going to change the world. So to me, even though no doubt that those technologies are evolving, and then they will have a huge impact on the way we live and the way we work, but they also did not happen in a day or like in a week or in a month. It all continuous evaluation from step by step, and slowly we are reaching to a point so we can start to use those things into our use cases. And so now if you see this, so this is the example that I put it here. If I ask you all, pick whatever the most important things for you in your personal life or professional life, and just improve a tiny bit, 1% every day, just 1%, not hard, 1% is small, and do it for a year. This is what happens. 308,000% improvement in whatever you do, because this compounding effect. Because every day, if you're improving 1%, you may say, "Hey, 1% every day is very hard." All right, how about 1% a week? Possible? That's hard. How about 1% in 2 weeks? Start small, right? So that's the whole kind of the gist here, and this quote is my modified version, but I think the best way to change the world is to keep improving yourself, because it's and then help out other people, your team, whatever you learn, and this is an example, right? So this product and community, product school community, and here we are sharing, we are learning, and we are continually improving as a community and getting better in our product management related skills. All right, so now the next section is about how to apply some of these this continuous improvement approach into the product management life cycle or the processes. And a lot of people have this ambitious goal that, hey, I want to change the world, and sure, you can change it. We just talked about the best approach is you start slow and then build up, make the strong foundation, and you'd be able to do it. But one thing I want to highlight here is most people overestimate what they can achieve in a shorter time frame. But if you give them, hey, what do you think where you will be or what you can do in 10 years? Because our mind never thinks that, and that's where going back to the compounding numbers I had. So don't shy away from setting the big ambitious goals in a longer time frame, because you'll be surprised. If you are consistent and doing it in a smaller increment, you can easily achieve them. Okay, so how to apply this approach to product management? When I was talking with people, they said, hey, how this is different than Agile. We do Agile. We work in these small sprints, 2-week sprint, and then we quickly build features, we deliver it. So Agile is very good at working in a team and then building the things, okay? But what Agile does not provide you is what to build, which is very important for the product management. And then it's not just about building, right? It's because we saw in the golden triangle slide, it says, the people involved. What is the certainty that whatever feature we are building, customer will use it? And I think as a human, we want to reduce the uncertainty or the risk as soon as possible. And in most cases, in the Agile culture, what happens is that whenever you see, hey, this thing will not work, you try to jump to the first solution immediately without looking at all the other variables and parameters. And I see this happening at many places. In HP, we did, in some of the product that I was involved, we had this issue. And then this all leads to some of the traps. Because if you don't have this full framework in place, then what happens is you build the product without understanding what actually customer wants. And many examples of this that they, even the big companies build the products, release it, and then spend a lot of money, a lot of time, resources, everything that needs to happen in a product lifecycle happen properly, but the only thing that didn't happen was they didn't identify what is the real problem that is worth solving.
But Agile changes that.
Sorry?
Agile changes that, right? Part of the manifesto, the Agile manifesto, is that you're working closely with the client in collaboration. The client's involved at every step of the way, so if you've got the product wrong, then you severely miss the point of what Agile is about.
Yeah, so Agile do help, but what Agile does not help is this big picture, right? So it works very well for the software web-based products, but doesn't cover all the required this life cycle for the where you want to have the right balance, right? You want to have the strategy, you want to have the full roadmap, and how you can fit that into that weekly.
So Agile's just fine for hardware these days. Ask Saab, who's building the Griffin aircraft in Europe. It's one of the most exported fighter aircraft in the world, and they use Scrum on a daily basis to build that aircraft. So I would disagree with your supposition that this isn't necessarily applicable across the product spectrum. It is.
No, but we are using Agile here as well. I'm not saying that throw away Agile. And we can talk more because when we talk about these different processes and different the frameworks, we can debate and then. But to me, it's like, hey, what are the good pieces that I can use that fits to my needs and my environment? It's just like I'll give you a fitness analogy. Okay, so I can say, hey, I can give you 5 tips that will help you lose 5 pounds. Will they work for you? The same is true with the Agile or any other framework, because companies are so unique. We as an individual are so unique. So you have to take this and tailor it to your own requirement, and that you have to do it whether Agile or whether this continual improvement framework. This is not new. It's a simple plan, do, check, and act cycle, right? So we are identifying the issues, we are planning it, we are executing it, and then we are seeing that, hey, did we make the improvement that we said we will do? If not, do the post review, how we can improve it next time. This quote I recently put, at my home. I see it every day because as a product manager, the life is too short to work on building something which is not being used. If I look at I work for a startup, right? So we work very hard, 15, 16 hours every day. We build the product. Then those micro conditions happened. We had this, 2008 and 2009. First, we had the product, but then the market condition was such that we could not raise more funding. There were a few examples in HP that we built the product. It was almost ready to launch, and then reorg, and then so the point I'm trying to make is the better you can understand the customer problem or the problem you're trying to solve, whether it doesn't matter if you're working on an internal product or an external product. Some of you, if you just have your building on a platform or an API type of a solution, and you just have the internal customers, it applies to them as well. How often are you talking to them? Are you putting yourself in their shoes and then see how they're working? So it's all basically tying it to what they want, what kind of experience you want to provide them. Okay. And now the another way to think about this one is as these new technologies are coming, you may say that, hey, we made this breakthrough in this AI space. For this, we can identify the images, who you are. Okay. So one way is you have a solution space in this example. Okay, now we have an algorithm that can identify from millions of pictures that this is a dog, this is a cat, and now we can see how we can use it to solve the different problems. The other approach is what is the problem, but you don't know what is the solution. But here, what I'm showing is, as a product manager, it is very critical to see, because you have both scenarios. Your engineering team doing the innovations that will say, hey, we have this solution, but at the same time, customer will be telling you more and more issues. This doesn't work. We need this more. So you need to learn how you can align these two. You have a problem space, and then you have a solution space. The better you get it, the more success you will have as a product manager, because you'll be able to come up with more ideas and then able to leverage the existing capabilities. Particularly in the big company, very critical, because like if I look at HP, there was 1,000 teams, everybody's doing innovation in their areas, and then now in your own world, in your own bucket, you don't know what kind of things that are available for me on the front end layer, on the back end layer, that I can use in my product. And what ended up happening is you have to create a duplicate effort, or basically your customer don't have a solution. So very important to be in touch with all these different teams, and along with talking to your customer as frequently as you can. On this slide, I try to lay down some of the the activities as a product manager. So this is the kind of the same cycle on the top: identify, plan, execute, and review. And then some of the key activities that happens in a product management process: uncovering the problem worth solving. Okay, once you have uncovered it, how you can put into kind of create a business case. And I have a template that I use it frequently now, that the business model canvas. So it's this slide will be available, so feel free to use some of the templates that we have in here. Identifying the KPIs. Some of you, let's say you go for a product management interview, the most common question is, hey, how do you measure the success? Okay, now why this KPI is important to you as a PM. And I'll talk about more about KPIs in a minute. You align with the goals. So I'll quickly skip through, but the whole idea here is that you're discovering, identifying what needs to be done, what's important. You're prioritizing here, bringing all the ideas into one place. We call it like the improvement register. Whatever needs to happen come into one place so that we can prioritize. This is where the agile framework comes into the place. This rapid experimentation, design, and then incremental, the value creation for your customers, that is very important, particularly when you are having this expectation from the customer is, depending on whether you're working on a B2B or a B2C side product. Even in the B2B side, customers are asking more and more features more quickly. Okay? And then it's the review part, because it's a continuous cycle. That's why this continuous improvement. It's not just that I improve this one particular area and I'm done. No, there is always room for improvement. And I see many companies are hiring a dedicated improvement manager, just like a program manager, the person who is responsible for delivering all this improvement and able to show the value to the company. Okay. So let's move on here. So this is one example that once you have discovered that what problem or what features and what capabilities you are going to build, how you can put your the heads around it, like how you can put it together and go in front of your manager or the management that, hey, I have this great idea, and this is how it is useful for our customer, this is how it is useful for our business. So one way to look at it is this 4-step process. Understanding as a product managers, what value our organization is providing or what that particular feature is providing, right? And how you are creating that value. Okay? Once the value is created, how you are delivering that value and how you are capturing that value. So this is basically a summary of what a company does. It creates the value, okay? It's deliver the value, and then realize the value. And the value could be an economic value or some other form of value. And then this time what happens, there's like different sections here. This is where how you create the value, your customer segment, what is the value prop you have. These are the other sections. So this is a structured way so that you will not miss an important area. Okay. Defining clear goals and KPI. So this is basically saying the most important aspect, because as more and more products are giving you these data, how they are being used, how they are being deployed, how they are being retired. To me, I think if somebody asks me what is my most important KPI is to drive the sustainable business growth to my company. And how can I do that? So that's kind of the master level KPI, the high level. And then you can break it down into, okay, we'll build more capabilities and more features for our customers. The second one is what problem am I solving? Is this problem big enough? Is it worth solving? Did we understood it correctly? And the follow-up slide, I'll deep dive into more. And then the number 3 and 4 is basically the customer-centric KPIs or the business-centric KPIs. So here you have the acquisition KPI, how you will acquire the new customers, okay, how you will retain them. Super important KPI, the customer retention. Because if you're acquiring customers, and if somebody, let's say, launched a website or a blog, customers are coming to it, and then they just come and then they never visit that page. It's kind of the leaky bucket analogy. So you're putting the water, but if it's leaking from the side or from other places, then so retention is very critical in B2B or B2C, and then the customer satisfaction. So there's few important KPIs. But the characteristics, if you look at the characteristics of the good KPIs or the good goal is, some of you may have heard this SMART acronym, right? The more specific and more measurables they are. This is kind of another shorter version that I use is a goal has to be specific and narrow. And you may say that, okay, then how can I have a bigger goal? Okay, then you can have that hierarchy that have multiple goals and then how they fulfill or align to your business goals or company goal. Okay, so what we did is we identified the problem, we identified how we are going to measure the success. Now let's align those success metrics to our business goals. So some more bullet points here. The additional characteristics of good metrics. And these metrics, there are many more metrics, right? If you Google it, hey, what are the KPIs for this particular product, or the cloud products versus the hardware products, they are different. So that's why it depends on what industry you are in. But always, any metrics that you pick, think of in terms of, is it actionable? If I'm tracking it, what is the follow-up action I can take, right? If there is no follow-up action and it does not provide enough insights, it's not very useful. And then metrics become more meaningful once you have the relative comparisons with your peers, with your the other competitors, so the benchmarking is very important. And benchmarking is one of the other products that I worked on, because it is required to have that meaningful conversation that how do you compare with others. Otherwise it's okay, maybe am I doing good or bad. Okay. Some kind of a cheat sheet or points on when you are in discovery phase. So the question that a good question to ask is how much time are you spending with your customers? Do you know how they feel? Or the best way to is to, at least in some of the product that we work on, is if you can talk to your customer on a weekly basis, have that continuous feedback loop. They even set up those weekly meetings, and even if they cannot make it, at least you have a cadence, and then you can look forward to the next one. But very important to spend some time into the customer's shoes. So as a human mind, we have two modes, right? One is like we are learning, and then we are applying that learning. But very quickly what happens is whenever we see a problem, we immediately jump into the solution or fixing mode without spending enough time in the learning. Okay, the customer says, hey, this thing is not working for me, or we are trying to do X, and then you will, oh yeah, we have a solution, and then spend some time in learning why they're making that decision. Ask those, the follow-up. There's a 5 why framework. If you ask why 5 times, then it usually leads to the actual reason why that customer wants to do that particular step. Okay. You can read through this. Some of the intuitives, you want to ask more open-ended questions. And the idea is how you can get the useful insight that will help you make the decision into what solution, what features to build. All right, so once we know what we want to build, now what's next? I have an idea. Okay, I know that customer has this pain point. How do you validate that? So that's this part. So, and when it comes to an idea, the timing and execution is very important. If you look at any successful product in last 10 or 20 years, there were the examples of the product, they were ahead of the time, and there are examples of the product, they were late in the time. And the companies who had the right market conditions, the right timing, they got that market share and became the market leader. Many examples, in the iPhone, the smartphone market. I think it's the recent one, cloud, like Amazon. Everybody was so scared of go to the cloud, and now it become one of the biggest business, and now everybody is trying to catch up. Okay, so share it internally. That's what I do is whenever I have, I can talk to a few people, my sales team, my support team, just to validate because whatever information customer gave you, it may not be complete. So the idea is the more the brain point or how they see that problem, it's better because then you can look at all these ideas, draw it on a whiteboard, so that you can then see where are the intersection. In most cases, when you have a lot of ideas, let's say when you come into these 10 product school interviews, you heard 1-2 things from me and previous other session. One thing try it out if you haven't done it is take your own notes and then use a white paper or a whiteboard and draw them out in this, like, hey, these are the things, and then you'll be surprised because the most important idea or the most important thing or the how to solve it is usually at the intersection. It's not exactly that what I'm telling you. Okay? Because then you will put in your context, your environment, where you are in your career or in your phase, so that you can apply those variables on the top. Share it externally, so blogs, friends, share with them, depending on, some companies don't allow it if you're, let's say, work for Apple. But there are other ways, right? The idea is to, you want to validate your idea. All right, so I had an idea, it has been validated, okay, makes sense. Now, how to design it, prototype, another important phase. Doesn't matter in what industry you work in. These days, I think this product, the quick prototype and experimentation have become very, very critical. Because then you can really test the market needs. So a few points here, and in software products, usually in the big companies, you get a designer who can work along with you, who can help the prototype and flesh out the other details. Even if you don't have a designer, usually there is the scarcity of designer resources. Try to do your own rough, whatever. You don't have to be it's just a rough mock-up to give an idea and given flow and show the user's journey, that how someone will come to or interact with my product, what activities will they do, and then how they will end the session or the usage of the product. Keep it simple because that ties back to the customer experience. The more complex we make, it becomes very hard. It adds so much cost onto when it comes to the services and support. And I'm sure you can think about a few examples in this area where, the way a lot of people love iPhone is because it's so simple to use. You give it your 2-year or 4-year a child at home, and they will figure it out where to touch and how to close very, very quickly. So that's where you can have this simplified customer experience approach that will give you the differentiation as compared to other people. Talk about the execution and the mobilization part. When it comes to execution, very first important point is, another one is like, hey, what is the most important as a product manager? Interview questions. The first bullet point here. Building the relationship with the people in your team, in the company. Because they say, hey, the product manager is the CEO of the company, but you freaking have no authority over them. Why they will listen to you, why they will trust you, particularly when you go to a new company. So build the trust. There are many ways to build the trust. I think the easiest way is have those informal meetings, right? Set up coffee breaks and just talk to them, lunch meetings, and then find out the common ground. Because one of the ways to start the conversation and to make the connection or the trust, when you talk to somebody new, I use it a lot. I'm a very introvert guy, but then just to see what is common. Maybe we like the same movie star, or the sports, or maybe we have the same dog. And once you have that common starting point, then you can share a few things, and in the reciprocity, the other person will share, and then that's how kind of the one way to build up the trust. And once I had this idea and prototype, start sharing with the execution team, which is in software world like the dev team, right? There's your Scrum team. And the sooner you will start and get their opinion, and in most cases, it is always recommended that you include your designer and the dev lead in the early discussion, so that you can identify some of the risky area that you may, as a product manager, you may not be aware of, or if it is outside of your domain knowledge. And the idea here is to identify the experiment areas where there are highest risk. You want to try out those things, and then decide whether to build that capabilities or not. Avoid specials. In the B2B market, if you are building product for enterprises and you got a big customer is paying you millions of dollars, and then they'll say, hey, we need these features, they'll press hard. Your CEO is coming to you and asking, we have to do this. And so as a product manager, how do you strike the balance? Because if you start to do this special, what happens is there will be so many customizations in your product. That is, this customer need X, this customer need Y. So the one way to strike up the balance is whenever you have those situations, then bring up those people who is making requests and say, hey, there's a trade-off. If you do this, we have to throw out the other pieces. In the beginning, if it's a startup, it's a different story, because if you only have a few customers, you want to grow, and but avoid doing these special. If it's important, it's a common. Like you see that this makes sense, have it in your roadmap. Then goes into the execution cycle. Leverage data to make decisions. Came up so many times. Data, how you can use it. Just data in itself, even if you have, let's say, lots of data, and if you don't know what questions to ask, what hypothesis that you have about a particular situation, you're looking at the sales data or you're looking at your product usage data. If you don't have those questions or the hypothesis that you make, then you will not be able to make a good use of data. So that's why this I'm saying here is data is most useful when you come in with a question. Hey, I want to know how many people comes to my the fitness blog site, from where they are, which region, what age group they are, how much they are spending. So these are the questions that I have, and then I'll go to the Google Analytics or whatever the website analytics, I can then get my answers. But if I'm just looking at it here, it gets hard. So this is, I think, one of the becoming a core skill, must-have skill for the product managers to get familiarized with the data, make decisions what data you will gather during the early stage while you're building the product. So once your product is out, you have the data, and then you can make better decisions next time. And so this is becoming much easier, because now, no matter what household item you pick, you can talk to internet, right? So your fridge, your refrigerator, your microwave. Amazon launched this Alexa-based microwave, so now they know what you're cooking, how long you're cooking, things like that. So very interesting. Okay, so new technology, right? So I mentioned in the start, because they are redefining the role of product managers and redefining in a good way, because that's when if a problem is becoming more complex to solve, you need more people to solve. Okay, which means you need more product managers. Good for us. Okay. So why this is happening? Because technology has been changing at a very exponential pace. So some of you know the Moore's law. So that is kind of becoming history now, because now it's more exponential technology growth. You look at some of these trends and chart, they are more steeper now compared to, like, if you look at few other decades of the trending information. This slide is not very clear, but this is a link in here. You can go, great blogs. So what are the 30 upcoming technology for the next decade? And here, artificial intelligence, IoTs, robots, blockchain, cybersecurity, and think about it. When all these are being used in a single, company and product lines, not all. I mean, many of them will get used. So this is where we end up now, where the PM roles is becoming more and more important, because all the physical thing that we do, all the digital things that we do, and all our health and biological, all they are converging together. Okay. One example, you can take it like from the healthcare. Right now we have these Fitbit or your Apple Watch. They can track what activities you are doing, what's your glucose level, and everything else, right? And then that data gets sent to, let's say, the cloud, where your doctor can see what's going on. They can look at the trend. They can prescribe you medication. Medication might come to your doorstep, using a drone or a robot. Maybe the 3D printer can print your medicines. You eat them, and then you have the again feedback loop. So this is the kind of the convergence, one convergence example where these multiple technologies are getting used. Another interesting one is the self-driving car, autonomous cars. Okay, so if you think about as a product manager, building the technology, this autonomous car, it's not just about the car and algorithm. It's the whole society and the way we basically step out of our house. Everything kind of has to change. We all have to learn. How the insurance the companies will work. Okay, if something happens, who is responsible? Right. So all those different angles. Right. There are a few companies who are working on this human longevity product. Okay, so what they're saying is we can increase the human life to today it's 80 or 90 or whatever to 500 years. So think about that. Let's say if you are living, let's say, the 500 years, when do you think you will retire? 100, 200, 300. What it means? I mean, what it means to all these. When should we have kids? Okay. So this is where the product manager comes, because all the things that we get used to or we have seen for a few decades, they are changing, and that's basically what the revolution does. And the revolution is slowly going to happen because of this convergence, right? So as a product manager, we are faced with designing these solutions or system, including both the technology and the people. Earlier it was mostly about the technology and some way of interface using keyboard and all that, but now you will talk to the technology. The technology can sense my mood and technology can make decisions, right? So that's where you need more product managers, because you need people who can look at all these different emerging scenarios and otherwise, if somebody just building solutions and there's you'll find a blocker where it's of no use. So far with me? Okay. So this section is a list of models and canvases that I use. So again, the agile model here, but the regular agile model does not work if you're building AI-based product, because you cannot build an artificial intelligence or machine learning algorithm in 2 weeks, because they are making progress. But if you ask a data science to, hey, give me this solution in 2 weeks, they'll say, go away, because those things need experimentation, the longer time. So how you can fit in those into your agile kind of the world? So that's why there are many steps here. So that's why this design sprint concept is becoming more popular. That the Google started, and now many other companies have started to use this design. The idea is, okay, you pick one particular problem and then spend about a week in understanding and framing and reframing and understanding. We are not building anything. We are just framing and reframing and then seeing what exactly the problem we are trying to solve. And this is the most difficult part when you actually try to do it in the beginning. It takes that mindset change. It takes the 6 months for me to, okay, design sprint, and but we actually, when you sit in a room with few people, and then it takes time to think in those terms, and then before we jump into building basically this part, building, release, and then this continuous delivery part. Okay. This is another framework when it comes to the innovation, because as a product manager we have to be innovative if you're not coming up with new solutions. So here the way you can kind of make sense of this diagram is this is the learning mode that I mentioned earlier, that you're talking to customer, you're the empathy, what is the term, the customer empathy, okay? And then this is basically the same thing, a different way to look at everything into one slide. So we're understanding why the customer needs, or why the customer is complaining, what ideas or insight I can generate, and this is where the designing that experience or that solution comes into the picture. Okay, and then the concrete experience, the kind of the final product, and then it's another way of look at it. So the way, so I think we shouldn't hang up with that, the agile or this framework or that framework. To me, what I find helpful is whatever help clarify your view of that model and how it applies to your scenario, go with that. Otherwise, you will just keep, hey, what this 2 weeks Scrum means, or 3 weeks Scrum, or whatever the 5 people mean, what is the best practices? No, they are not the gold standard. They are just a reference point. The bigger version of what I showed earlier, that how you identify value, how do you create value, how do you deliver value. Another way of looking at the problem mindset view, where you're identifying the problem, the lean product manager canvas. So a lot of pieces are the same, because the basics doesn't change, right? If you look at the building blocks and have our own mental model, they're the same, but the few scenario changes, and then so it's basically very similar to the previous one. The only difference is it's more of the arriving from the problem standpoint. Okay, what is the problem? Customer journey map, another good template. That how do you build your customer journey, or earlier we used to call it the user profiling. That who will be using this my product? Is it for kids? Is it for the school kids, or is it for elder people? So you're kind of doing those, and how they will interact with once you have that segmentation, how they will use the product, so this you can lay out the journey, so that the use cases as a product manager, the stories that you will build, they will be more clear for you and more clear for the development team. Problem solving approach, kind of this, you have a problem, and then so these are many ways, very useful. I used to ignore some of these kind of the framework, and then hey, I'll do it in Excel, or I'll do it in my mind. But trust me, saying from the experience, have these some of them as a tool in your back pocket. You don't need a sophisticated tool for 90% of your work. So that, hey, I need to learn this particular product management tool. 90% of the time, simple, these kind of the 2x2, 2x3 kind of the metrics will do the good job for you. Easier to explain to your stakeholders, management. If you show them a lot of data, they will not get it. But it will say, hey, this is where we are creating value. This is where we are capturing the value. Okay? Simple. The more complex we create, the maintenance and explanation becomes hard. Some of the other template for the how to do the post review, and so that you can find more improvement ideas, new product ideas. Where are the bottlenecks? What is the fallback plan? Okay. So far with me. All right. So I'll wrap it up in a few minutes, and then we can. So some of them, these I listed down as 7 habits that I've been incorporating recently because we have a cloud product. We are trying to bring intelligence into our applications that we are building. This new digital world where all these technologies are converging, what are some of the habits that we all should do at the right time? Not like I release the product and now I'm wondering, hey, how will I do the usage tracking? Because I didn't add that event message or, okay? Another reminder, a few key takeaways is having this growth mindset or continuous mindset. How many of you have read that growth versus fixed mindset book? Very popular. Yeah, so I'll recommend if you guys want to learn more about how our mind works, how we can change it, how we can change our habits slowly one by one, and then change the way we think, change the way we see the world, the change we interpret, because it's all slowly become based on our experience from the childhood, our culture, the biases that we have. So you can alter that, and this is this continuous improvement mindset approach. For example, if I cannot do a handstand today, this is going back to fitness example, I can't help. So how can I kind of learn? Can I just go in the plank position for 2 seconds, and then maybe next week go for 3 seconds and 4 seconds, and then slowly I'll put my legs against the wall and then build up this kind of shoulder strength. And once I have the basic, I'll be able to do the handstand. Yeah. So having that mindset is very important, because otherwise it's so easy to give up, right? I tried these, few things, hey, not happening. Maybe I'm designed this way. My shoulders are not designed to do the handstand. No, that's not true. You can try enough, and this whole learning. I think some of them is just. It's a reminder. We have to remind ourselves, because nothing is new to here. I can guarantee all these stuff. But the point is that are you able to apply those when needed? Okay. So in an organization, this underscoring this point again, this building the CI culture, because it's not just about you. Okay, let's say if I understood this concept and the value of this concept, because if I cannot pass on and then cannot evangelize this thing into my team and my company, then collectively we cannot do the best job that we should have. Okay? All right, and I think this brings to my last slide. While we are all doing these, we're making things, products that customer loves. I see so many people, particularly in the tech industry, they don't move at all. Year goes by, they start to have the back problem, knee problem, weight problem, everything else. came up with there's so many patents and ideas, and they are just in 30s and 40s, and then one day they go, hey, we have this annual health checkup, and surprise, surprise, surprise. If I cannot take care of myself, how will I take care of others? So, and when I say like taking care of, it's not just about, hey, do I have a six-pack ab and do I look good? It's all these four quadrants. I say that we have to take care of ourselves physically, emotionally, our creative minds, the ideas, right, and then spiritual. And spiritual here doesn't mean that we have to be religious or we have to pray or anything. It is that do you have that feeling of gratitude, or do you respect each other, and then do you see other people as a human, or do you see them as resources, right? You say, hey, we have these resources. No, they are not resources; they are human. Okay? And another way to think of it is, again, going back to the framework mindset, is these are kind of the four legs of a chair. One leg is weak. If I see many people are so good at training their creativity skills, but then if their health goes in so bad, it becomes very hard to reverse it back. Okay? So take care of ourselves and enjoy the rest of the